Hello, Wonderhussy here, knee-deep in a marsh in the San Francisco Bay, trying for the third time to get to this dang ghost town. That's right, that little cluster of trees, and I'll go ahead and zoom in on it for you, is a little ghost town called Wingo. And this is the third dang time I've tried to hike out to it. Don't they say third time's the charm? Well, this doesn't feel very charming. Okay, the first time I tried to hike out here, you might remember, was towards the end of a video I made at a place called the Lone Toilet. That's right, there's actually a place marked as such on Google Maps, I don't know, about 7 miles that way, called the Lone Toilet. It's basically an old wooden outhouse in the middle of a swamp next to a freeway. Well, anyway, I hiked out there, investigated the toilet, and then thought I would come out here and check out the ghost town at the end of the video. Well, if you watched that video, you might remember at the end, my intel, my online research had indicated that I could drive to within a mile of the ghost town. Well, when I got to the end of where you can drive, come to find out it's more like 3-4 miles, and so I didn't have enough daylight left to do it that time. So I came out here again about a month later, back in July, and tried again, but unfortunately I was able to hike the first mile and a half or so, and then the road, well, it's less of a road and more of a canal at this point. I think you would need a kayak or a gondola, and preferably one piloted by a sexy gondolier singing Italian opera, to get out here. Anyway, I thought I'd be smart and try again, only this time with a pair of galoshes, which is why I'm knee-deep in a marsh, complaining to you right now. Okay, my thought was I'll just walk or wade through this marsh the rest of the way to the ghost town of Wingo. That's right, it's called Wingo. Like Wingo Star. He was a very good drummer. No, it's Wingo, and I'm actually not sure why it was named that. There was a bunch of different theories. But anyway, what difference does it make, man? I did all this research into this ghost town, which has a really interesting history, and there's supposed to be a really cool old wooden drawbridge out there that the train still goes over every now and then. But I can't get to it! Okay, I'm wading along what I think is the old road. I mean, the road is still marked on Google Maps as a road, and it basically follows along that curve there and goes right to the town. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to wade very much farther because, unfortunately, my galoshes are leaking. And what's more, I'm supposed to be back at my mom's house helping my sister and her pack everything up. That's right, my mom is moving. She sold her house. She had this beautiful cabin up in the redwood forest on the Russian River. Okay, if you've ever been up to the Russian River, oh my God, it's absolutely beautiful. She had this gorgeous cabin up there that she lived in for over 10 years, but it just started to get too much for her, you know? She's getting up there. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this, I don't mean to make you sound old, but you know, it's getting to be a lot for her. It's got a wood burning stove, and that's the only way she heats the house, and so she's out there chopping wood and loading wood, and it's just a rough life. So anyway, as beautiful as the house is, and as much as she loved it, she sold it, and my sister and I came up here. Oh, hold on. There's like some old carpet or something laid down here. Weird. Well, maybe that was laid down so that people could drive out here. I guess I could keep walking a little distance. I mean, on the plus side, it's not like I'm gonna drown. I'm standing in like, what, not even 12 inches of water, so. Anyway, like I was saying, I shouldn't be doing this at all. I should be back home helping my sister and my mom pack, but they were very understanding. They knew that I got a job to do, and this is how I make my living, and so I'll be honest, when my mom announced that she had sold the house and had to be out on September 5th, which by the way is only like 5 days from now, I said, okay, I'll come up and help you move, even though it meant missing Burning Man. That's right, I go to the Burning Man festival every year. I've gone every year since 2009, well, except for 2021 when they canceled it because of COVID. But anyway, I love Burning Man. I go every year, but I told my mom, no, of course, I'll skip Burning Man. It's more important to help you move. But in the back of my mind, I thought, well, if I go up to help my mom move, that means I can bring my galoshes and try to get to this dang ghost town again. Because I am nothing if not stubborn, and I really hate having to give up. Hey, wow, this is interesting. I'm actually getting a lot farther than I thought I was gonna get. This carpet, or whatever it is actually not that bad of a surface to walk on, and the water still hasn't gotten any deeper, so I'm just gonna keep plugging ahead, trying to get to the town of Wingo. Wingo, Wingo. Remember that song? It was Lorne Greene, the dad from Bonanza. It was an old, like, Western song, I guess from the 50s or 60s, about a guy who comes across a gunslinger laying face down in the desert. He's been shot in the chest. And so this guy cuts the bullet out and nurses the gunslinger back to life. And even though they go their separate ways after that, you know, the narrator goes on to become a sheriff. The gunslinger goes back to being a gunslinger. Well, they meet again eventually when the gunslinger comes to the town that the other dude is the sheriff of. And they have to do one of those high noon showdown, shootout kind of a deal things. But the gunslinger is so good that he shoots the gun clean out of the sheriff's hand. And so now the sheriff is just standing there facing his doom as Ringo is pointing his gun at him. But Ringo, guess what? Remembers that the sheriff saved his life, and so he lets him go. Even though that means the posse that's waiting just behind the sheriff shoots Ringo dead shortly thereafter. And that's when the guy goes, "And then at last I understood that there was still a spark of good in Ringo. Ringo! Ringo!" Anyway, I can't say the name Wingo without thinking of that song. Oh, brother, my galoshes are so full of water. I feel like I'm probably going to get trench foot. Isn't that what happened to those poor guys in Vietnam when they were hiking through the jungle? It was real wet and mucky, and their army boots got wet. It wasn't trench foot a real nasty thing that happened? Well, I don't think I'm going to get trench foot because this is only like, God, you can see it. It's not that far from here. And if I can just get out there and get back to my car, or not even back to my car, if I can just get back to, I don't know if you can see, there's that little rustic old boathouse in the distance. That's the last bit of dry land. If I can just make it back to that, I have flip-flops in my backpack that I can change into. Boy, who goes to more lengths to get to these places than I do? You know, this might be a good point in the video for me to mention the fact that I do have a Patreon. And so if you'd like to support my future medical expenses like trench foot medication, well, you can sign up to support me there. And I'd like to take a minute to thank everybody who already does so. I sincerely appreciate it, okay? I've been driving around like a fool all summer long, shooting videos for this channel, trying to stockpile enough content to get me through this move. You know, I knew for a while that I was going to be helping my mom move, and I knew that was going to take up a big chunk of time, and I wasn't going to be able to go out exploring and shooting more content, and so I needed a bunch of stuff in the can, as it were, to tide me over. Did somebody say tide? Because I think the tide might be coming in. Incidentally, this is part of the San Francisco Bay. We're at the very far northern edge of the San Francisco Bay, kind of just outside wine country. As a matter of fact, if I turn this way, you might be able to see there's vineyards all along the hillsides there. And as a matter of fact, I had to park at a winery just to get here. That's right, this road that we're on goes right through this winery, but then unfortunately there's a locked gate, and so I had to park at the winery and hoof it the rest of the way until it was time to put on my galoshes and start wading. Anyway, like I was saying, I drove around all summer long shooting a bunch of videos, and I burned a lot of gas, so I do want to thank my generous Patreon supporters for all your help, because without you, I wouldn't have been able to fill my gas tank and shoot any of these videos that you've hopefully been enjoying. But that being said, even though I drove around all dang summer and shot as much as I could, I'm still gonna run out of content in a few weeks, and so I thought, well, while I'm up here, I might as well make a third try to get to this dang ghost town. It's driving me nuts. Have you ever wanted something so bad that, you know, the first time you didn't succeed, you tried again, and then the second time you didn't succeed, so you tried again? Well, I have the feeling that this is the last attempt I can make to get to this ghost town, because if it doesn't work this time, I really don't know what more I could do other than maybe research the tide charts, which in retrospect might have been a good idea if I came out here at the low tide, like the super low tide. I don't know, maybe this road is dry. It's so confusing to me. I looked this place up. I did a lot of research into it. I read at least 3 or 4 blogs from people who went out here. The only thing I can think is there was an earthquake here back in 2014 and some levee broke. When the levee breaks, I'll have no place to stay. Mean old levee keeps me from getting to the ghost town. Excuse me. Anyway, some levee broke, and I think that flooded more of this area than used to be flooded. So all these blog posts that I read, they were from like the early 2010s. So maybe you just can't get out to this dang ghost town anymore. And what a shame. I mean, I really did do a ton of research into this place, and it had a really interesting history, okay? It initially was founded as a steamboat dock called Norfolk. That's right. There used to be steamships that would come out of San Francisco. They'd bring all those fancy folks from San Francisco just across the bay there up north to go to Sonoma town. Okay, I guess Sonoma, this is way before the wine industry, but Sonoma was, I guess, a decent sized town back then. And so all these people that wanted to get back and forth between Sonoma and San Francisco, this is way before the Golden Gate Bridge was built. Well, they would take this steamship across the bay and land at this little town called Norfolk. Okay, well, Norfolk eventually dried up because the Golden Gate Bridge was built in 1937. So nobody needed to take a steamship anymore. But also a railroad had been built in the meantime. And actually it was really interesting. This prismoidal railway was built out here. If you're a rail fan, you might know what a prismoidal railway is. Anyone else probably has no idea, and I certainly didn't either, but I did some research, and it's basically a monorail. It's a railroad that runs along one rail, and the reason it's called prismoidal is the rail is supported by prisms, like pyramids along the way. There's these wooden pyramids. I know, pyramids, monorail, it sounds like some kind of weird new age thing, but some speculator did build a prismoidal railroad out here, but that only made it a few miles and it never really caught on. So eventually the regular railroad built tracks out here. And so to this day, there is still this wooden drawbridge out here. And I think freight trains still come out here. So I don't know. Oh, there's the rail tracks there. I don't know if you can see, but there's a berm not too far away. And that is a raised railroad bed. And that it goes right through the ghost town of Wingo. Wingo! Anyway, like I was saying, they do still run freight trains out through this historic ghost town. Oh, as a matter of fact, it looks like there's some kind of truck or something driving along the track. How did that get out there? I swear to God, I looked at this ghost town every which way on Google Earth and Google Maps, and I couldn't figure out any other way to get here other than, well, by train or by foot like I'm doing. And, well, this isn't proving to be a very good method. I think bringing a kayak might be a good way to get out here, but even that would be problematic because you can't get that close to the water at the winery, so you'd have to drag a kayak. I guess if you had an inflatable kayak or maybe a stand-up paddleboard, you could lug it a mile down the closed road to the nearest put-in point and then paddle out there. But it's so windy out here that, golly, I feel like the current would carry you real far away unless you were real careful. Anyway, the town of Wingo pretty much dried up in the, early 1900s. I think there was still one little old lady living there in like 1994. You know, she and her husband had bought a cabin out there for $1,000 back in 1956 or something like that. Can you imagine buying a cabin, let alone even a garden shed anywhere in the Bay Area for $1,000? It's unthinkable. Well, anyway, back in the day, her and her husband bought their cabin for $1,000, and this little old lady lived there until 1994. But after she passed away, it was just a ghost town, and local kids in the area used to use Wingo as kind of a code for like going out and making out. Like they'd go, we're gonna go watch the boat races at Wingo. Well, that really meant they were gonna go park and neck, okay? You know, get in the car and
make out.
According to what I read online anyway, that's what kids used to say about the ghost town of Wingo, which I guess in 2003, I think there was some kind of flood, and, well, I was gonna say that really messed up all the buildings, but it looks like there's still some pretty juicy stuff there, and it's very frustrating to me that I'm not able to get to it. I mean, you can probably see that the water is already almost to the top of my leaking galoshes, so I don't think I should go any farther. I guess I should just do the unthinkable and admit defeat. Something I absolutely loathe. I like to consider myself unstoppable in the true American tradition, but unfortunately, even the unsinkable Molly Brown sank, didn't she? I'm not sure. I don't even know what that movie's about. Anyway, yeah, I guess I better just start wading back to shore, even though I was kind of hoping we'd see the train pass, because I thought I heard the train whistle. And as a matter of fact, it's mostly just freight trains now, but there is still a party train that goes to, there's a NASCAR racetrack just over there, the Sonoma Raceway. If you follow NASCAR at all, and if you've ever taken a train to the Sonoma Raceway, well, then you may have driven right through Wingo yourself. As a matter of fact, there's a music video that you can watch on YouTube that was filmed here in Wingo in like 1990, I think, when it was still accessible and when that little old lady was still living there. And it looked like it was a really cool place. If you're interested, I'll post the link to that music video in the description to this video. But for now, I'm just gonna continue wading back to terra firma. Ugh. Oh man, my feet feel so wrinkly now, and they're pretty busted up anyways. I dropped a box on my foot the other day when I was foolishly moving stuff wearing flip-flops. Don't worry, I did bring boots and jeans and work gloves and the whole 9 yards so that I won't, hopefully, suffer any more injuries on this moving odyssey, which, well, I guess since I failed again for the third and presumably final time at getting to this ghost town, I might as well just go back to my mom's house and keep on packing. But at least I got some fresh air and sunshine and got to get out and see some cool stuff like this rusted old historic boathouse at the end of this beautiful trail that winds through the marsh alongside a vineyard. You know, I really should look on the bright side. I mean, I don't know where I'm going from here. I don't even know how long I'm going to be up here, frankly. I know my mom has to be out of her house by September 5th, and so right now we're just madly packing everything up and putting it into storage. But then where are we going after the 5th? You know, I got to help my mom find a new house and then help her buy the new house, and golly, that could take, probably will take weeks. I don't know what I was thinking when I packed to come up here. I mean, I made sure to bring my galoshes because I knew I wanted to come back here, but I didn't bring like winter clothes or anything because I didn't think I'd be gone that long. But realistically, I don't know when I'll be able to go back to Death Valley. Right now, my priority is helping my mom, and so I am totally in flux, and it is kind of unsettling. But you know, it's just like anything. It depends on the way you look at it. You know, it's kind of like my little misadventure here at the ghost town today. You know, on one hand, I could look at it as, oh gosh, I failed again. Or I could look at it as, hey man, I really tried and I didn't let it get me down. I was literally wading through the swamps of despair and they didn't suck me in. Okay, if you watched that video I made a couple months ago at the McKittrick tar pits, I was talking about that scene in the kids' movie, The Never-Ending Story, where the kid and his horse are walking through the swamps of despair, the swamps of sadness. And the one thing about the swamp of sadness is If you start letting it get to you, it'll suck you down. And so that's what happens to his horse. It's this really traumatic, for a kid's movie, scene where the horse starts sinking and the kid is trying to pull him out, but the horse just gave up and the swamp of sadness got him. Not me, though. Not today, Satan. Ain't no swamp sucking me down. No, sir. Even though I'm shooting this on Friday, which is the Friday of Burning Man week, and everybody else is running around up there high as a kite, having one of the biggest parties of the entire week. You know, tomorrow night's the night they burn the man. Biggest party on planet Earth. And I'm not gonna be there. Well, even though all of that is going on without me, I can still enjoy the fact that I'm out hiking on this beautiful day, on this beautiful trail that just happens to end in a vineyard full of delicious, ripe, plump, juicy grapes that are destined for Sonoma County greatness. You know, I have half a mind to go in this winery, buy a bottle of champagne, and toast reality in all its uncertain glory. But I don't know. Is it uncertainty? Or is it just adventure? You know, life might not always go the way we want it to go, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy every single minute of it and look at the galosh not as half full, but as half empty.